Welcome back to another episode of God's Care for Kiev. We were able to go there and be a part of arguably one of the most incredible world-changing events to happen in our generation. You think about the advent of this thing, February 24th, 2022. Russia rolls in, invades Ukraine, displaces more than 8 million people, the largest refugee crisis since World War II. It's a big deal. So you could wonder, does God care for Kiev in the midst of something like that? And of course he does. And today we're just talking about being able to go there, help out, set up refugee camp there, use Mercy Worldwide to affect efforts there, our feelings there. We were very frightened and scared. Got a chance to go with none other than Gustav sitting right here with me.
It's nice to be here.
Yes, and this has implications in many ways. We obviously, being Christians, we believe Jesus is the bread of life. And when you look at the statistics and you look at what economists are saying, they're saying basically Russia is the greatest exporter of wheat. And then you have Ukraine, it's the 5th largest exporter of wheat. Obviously, we're the exporter, we believe. The real wheat, there we go, the gospel, the real bread of life. But this war does pose a major shortage of physical food. It's been felt all around the world. I think we feel the war the most probably at the gas pump. But just thinking about getting into the city, what did you feel when you first got in? And maybe you can ask me. I know you're going to ask me some questions.
Of course. I mean, I think it was, as for myself, I was surprised when we got in, because obviously when me and James arrived, as we spoke about earlier, we took a bit of a different route than you guys, ending up coming in a bit late. I think what shocked me the most was that the actual exclusion zone that they actually have on the border there.
Sure.
And the fact that if you don't come in before 10 p.m.,
right,
you'll actually be shot, as far as I understood from Victor being in there. And the fact that we arrived 9:59 past that exclusion zone,
really,
was like, that's crazy.
I didn't realize you guys were that close.
Yeah, we were that close. So we literally saw the soldiers meeting them up at that control. It was like black outside. Of course, we were driven into Lviv by some other people close by.
Yeah.
But that was something I wasn't told until after having arrived, which was a bit of a shocker. I was like, okay, that was close. But being greeted, of course, with open arms by you guys, even coming there, that was awesome. But I wanted to actually hear your thoughts, because there was a chance me and James would be trapped outside.
Sure.
And in the camp, basically outside the city on the border control. I don't know if you had any, what were you thinking at that point?
I was scared. I'll be honest, I was praying for you guys. I was praying that you would get in. I know you and James. James very adventurous, but it was very quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And what hit me first was seeing all the families, seeing people sitting on the ground, sleeping on the ground, talking to a few of them. They've been sleeping in a train station for a couple of days. I was very impressed with many humanitarian groups that were there and the free food and all that stuff. But I think it got more serious when you got close to the border, when you got right at the border.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if there was more help in Poland than there was at the border. Once you got to the border, it was pretty, to coin one of my favorite brothers and preachers, Jason Dimitri, is a bit dicey. So you get there and there's a couple of Christian groups there, a lot of humanitarian groups, but nobody's going in.
It felt a bit like this medieval camp almost. You got all these tents set up, you got the fires going, that people were sitting by.
Yeah, and you felt a bit, if I can be honest, I felt guilty. And I think the other thing that really threw me is in my Western mind of what a refugee is. These are people that are business owners. These are people, I think of our brother who owns an incredible, it's not textile, but he does something with paper in Russia. His major client is Russia. I mean, this guy's a professional. He's got a beautiful house in Ukraine. He's now displaced. I look at all the people that we met coming out of the border. I met a doctor, I met lawyers, I met these unbelievably, these individuals who are gainfully employed. And now all of a sudden their livelihood's taken away. And they're obviously educated individuals who learned how to make a way for themselves in the world. and now they're refugees. So I think that also threw me that I think our view of refugee is the poor, struggling, defenseless person, not these individuals that are had great jobs and now they're picking up a rifle and defending their country, or like the psychologist lady we met, who is now she's now a single mom.
Yeah,
and her husband, who has medical issues, has to defend the country, can't leave the country. So I think that really shook up my view of what a refugee is, especially in the midst of a war. And then I think getting in there, into the city, I think that first drive, once you got past the border and you got in, and there's like commotion and everything on the other side in Poland of the border, but once you get past the border, it's quiet.
Yeah.
And that's the part that got me, where it was very quiet. And then you start seeing the military checkpoints. No one's looking you in the eye.
Yeah.
I forget who were the individuals that were kind of like the militia that's not part of the army. What are they?
Militia, basically just regular people just coming out, doing their own thing, being part of the army, taking the gun. Yep. I think on the way back, we even saw one, slinging his gun on his back, just coming out from his home, standing in the middle of the road, waiting for someone to pick him up.
Yep.
I think what shocked me just at the border as well, because we saw something that you guys didn't, which was all the big trucks coming through,
vans,
and the big vans.
So that's the second one.
And that's that's where James told me that most of the human trafficking comes in, of course, and that happens all in the middle of the night. So we would even see the people handing money over to the soldiers as they were going by with these huge trucks that they don't even check what's in them. So that was something that I didn't even anticipate going into Ukraine. Of course, we think about the war and happening, but then you don't realize, well, there's a bunch of more things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, all these political things, and I think I didn't see. Obviously, we weren't with you. We got into Ukraine. We stayed in the hotel. We saw the members. We got the refugee camp, or at least went to see the facilities and got it up and running. But when we left, we ran into CNN, and obviously, I think it was CNN Indonesia, Indonesia and Toronto. That's right. Mm-hmm. We got to chatting, and that's what we all obviously left together. That's when James pointed out some of the vans and the areas where they were driving in, and I saw that it was very easy for them to come in and out of the country, while we were all standing in a line that was a couple of blocks long, hoping to get out of the country. So it's really sad that you have individuals that are preying on really tough moments like this in history, and all this other darkness is going on.
I mean, that's something that I wanted to ask you about because when you went past the border control, of course, you similarly to us, you had to find a way to get to the actual city before you can actually get in there. So how did you guys do? Did you ask someone to drive you?
No, we walked around the corner and they told us there was a bus, and you walk around the corner and there's like this deserted area in the city where it looked like it could have been a bustling little hub for coffee shops. All the coffee shops are closed signs. I mean, it's like a Western film, tumbleweeds rolling. You're like, where is this? You go and you see this van, and then this guy kind of pops his head up. Get in. And I guess we were the first ones. I thought it was too good to be true, a little weirded out by it. We get in. I sat at the front of the bus, and then before you know it, other people got on, and before you know it, the bus was so busy that people were literally faces pressed up against the window. There was a lady that was sitting sitting not next to me, but sitting on someone who was sitting on someone. I mean, it was literally like sardines. I mean, it was arguably, I don't know how to describe it. It was.
You told me the smell was not the best.
Yeah, it was tough because you have people that have unclean for days. You have a bus that seats 50 that has 120 people on it. You have some people were hanging off the sides of the bus. They let them ride for a little bit, and then they got them off when they got into the freeway. You just go, wow, this is war. This is like survival. And those, and I was with a group of people that were going into the city. Yeah. And it didn't make me feel good that we were the only, not only, I mean, I was the only American, but I was the only person from everyone else was Ukrainian. It was me, Victor, and Andrew, and everyone else was Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And they were going back because of their families. We were sitting here going, what are we doing? But we were going back for our spiritual family and to try to make a difference. So we rode a small bus that got us into the city. Arguably the most discomforting journey I've ever taken in my life. Very long, it was very hot. It took about 3 hours. Got to the city in the middle of the night. And not to mention, it was tough to breathe. There were no windows that were open. So that was very tough. It was very hot. You couldn't breathe. People were stuffed on each other.
What was your impression of the actual refugees, both coming out, but also going back in? I mean, what was their... Because we have a view of like, oh, it's all horrible, you know, what will they feel like? But what were their hopes up? Were there...
I think a mixture. Many were very stoic, so there was no real emotion.
Yeah.
But then there were those who were uncomfortably joyful, if I could say it. Meaning, hey, nothing's happened. You know, once we got into Lviv, everyone started almost pretending like there wasn't a war. It was almost, some of the people I talked to, I felt like they were kind of like, this isn't happening.
Yeah, that's an impression.
And it made me go, I didn't know what to think at first. I went, yeah, but we just came through the border, and it was like, we saw the guns, we saw the soldiers, we saw. So when you talk to people in town, it was almost like an unwillingness to be afraid. But then on the other hand, there were individuals that were full well understanding that there was a war, and they were very confident. And so I think going behind some of the homes, you know, we stayed in that hotel, you look over, and, you know, we're at top floor, so you can look over and you can see behind people's flats, and you see just rows and bottles of Molotov cocktails. And like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like all the local people are like ready to fight. They've got like rows of bombs. And then it started hitting me like, you're in a hotel and next door, they've got rows of bombs.
Yeah.
Like, this is a real deal. So I think a mixture of emotions.
Non-denominational.